there was an attack that was likely to take place.
If the ruling class were affected in this, we could get justice. But now, this is injustice, pure injustice in the justice system. Justice Mugabe has relied just only on the respondents' replies, but he didn't have time to look into the files, what we filed, the way we have gone, because they were voluminous. I think that's why he couldn't. He had no time to take this.
Now, some members of the Luo community in Kajiado County have said they will continue to support the Kenya Kwanza government through the inclusive government arrangement. They have also urged leaders of the ODM party to put an end to internal wrangles that have been witnessed within the party and instead promote unity, as was championed by their former leader, the late Honorable Raila Odinga. The community further proposed that Dr. Oburu Oginga and the National Security Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Domolo should continue leading them in political dialogue ahead of the 2027 general elections.
Hapa kutangaza ya kwamba tuko kwa broad based ambaye tuliwachiwa na Raila Amolo Odinga pamoja na William Ruto president yetu. Sisi tuko nyuma yao.
We are there to stay na tunataka kusupport William Ruto to the letter. Na tukiacha hiyo bado maendeleo tunaona yamepeleka huko Ujaluoni, tuko na stima, tuko na siasa kina Mbadi, akina Wandai, maendeleo ziko. Only person that can give us that what is happening in the government is only Raymond Omolo. So we are requesting, we are demanding that anytime the talk is ongoing over UDA and ODM, Oburu Odinga and Dr. William Samoei Arap Ruto, Raymond Omolo must be included in that talk.
So I'm urging all the people who are bringing the differences to come together and sit on the table as one family and be in the broad-based government and continue with the developments that the president is giving us as the people of Nyanza.
Toweni Dr. Oburu Odinga kwa mdomo zenu. Dr. Oburu Odinga ndio Gen Z leader wa ODM na wa broad-based government. Dr. Oburu Odinga with William Samoei Ruto tunawasupport, tuko nyuma yenu kama sisi kama.
Now let's talk matters education, and following the President's directive for grade 10 students to report to schools, despite challenges related to school fees and uniforms, head teachers in Bungoma County have welcomed the move and pledged to ensure 100% school attendance. Speaking to the media at Bungoma Boys National Schools, after receiving students from both well-performing and financially challenged backgrounds, the school's principal, Wycliffe Wambuchi, said the institution is ready to admit more than 800 students. He added that strong strategies have been put in place to accommodate more learners, including improving infrastructure to support the competency-based education curriculum.
To take the boy to school, the class, and arrange to get some little uniform, like one pair, awaiting another payment. So those students are coming. They come without uniform, they come without school fees. But the only option we have is to admit. We can sort out the other issues later, but they should be in class. Our capacity initially, even away from what we were given, I told you we were given around 650, but our capacity will accommodate it up to 800. 800 students. If they came up to 800, we are fit to go. Of course, the challenges we face, when I say about capacity, I'm looking at the bed capacity, I'm looking at the classrooms. But now, of course, we are faced with the challenge of ensuring they have furniture that we are also doing. It's about, like, when you look at the challenge of finance, especially in boarding, it's not about the ministry. It's about the parents. My appeal is to those groups that give finance to the parents in terms of boarding. Now maybe the CDFs and other avenues need to be empowered to ensure that they support, especially the less privileged.
Now, a mental health guide for religious leaders has been launched in Mombasa County aimed at strengthening the role of faith-based institutions in identifying and addressing mental health challenges. Speaking during a launch at Chiromo Hospital, Chairman Professor Frank Jenga said that a long-time faith and medical treatment have conflicted, causing many people to continue suffering from mental health problems without receiving proper support. At the same time, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Dr. Jackson Ole Sapit, condemned the attack that occurred at St. Peter's ACK Church in Utima, Othaya, Nyeri County.
Organizations, Hindus, Muslims, and everybody else are fed up with the inaction and sense of paralysis that we have all felt over the years around the subject of mental health.
We come from yesteryears when issues around mental health challenges were regarded as quote-unquote a curse, and you are profiled. Our interactions and engagement and training with Dr. Frank and Chiromo Hospital Group has enabled us to appreciate that mental health is an illness like any other illness.
I want to make an appeal to every Christian church. Embrace this. The tool we are launching is not for the Anglican Church, it is for the whole body of Christ. It can also be used by other faith and other practitioners because it blends the issues of faith and what modern science is teaching us, and we want to strike a balance.
Residents of Katet in Bureti constituency have called on Kericho County leaders to clean drainage systems and collect garbage that has piled up in the town and around the market area. The residents criticize some county officials, including the governor and the Kapket ward representative, for failing to carry out the responsibilities of keeping Kapket and Bureti clean despite collecting taxes daily. Kericho Governor Dr. Eric Mutai has been accused of making development promises for the region that have yet to be fulfilled.
Shida nyingi, maji hakuna toilets ya Kapkatet Market. Watu wakitaka kusaidia wanaenda kando ya nyumba ya watu. Hata barabara ile ingesaidia hata wagonjwa kuingia hospitali ni tabu. Wanabiashara ya ndonyo hata takataka haiwezi kukolektiwa. So iko shida nyingi.
Tangu tu wakati wa uchaguzi tuliwaona tu viongozi kwa uwanja wakiomba viti, wakisunguka Kapkatet nzima wakiomba viti, lakini hata Sunday peke yake ambaye hatujawahi ona sura zao tangu wachaguliwe. Tunajua kwamba tena tunauliza kwamba Kapkatet ni wapi?
Ya kwanza street lights zimeharibika, ya pili takataka unaona zimeenea kila mahali. Kaunti ya Kericho haitusaidii kucollect takataka zenye ziko hapa hivi. Alafu kitu kingine ya tatu ni drainage. Ukiangalia vile kunakaa, drainage za Kapkatet zinakaa mbaya sana. Alafu pahali pa kutembea pia. Tulikuwa tumeambia kuwa tutawekewa cabros, lakini ukiangalia ni kubaya. Kukinyesha ni mbaya, kukiwa na jua pia unaona ni vumbi kila.
That's 1 minute past the top of the hour. That's not to take a short breather here on Morning Live. But when we come back, we're going to tell you what exactly the newspapers are saying. Don't go too far.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Alright, welcome back to the program. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper dated today, the 29th day of January 2026. Of course, just 2 days to we usher in February, the month of love, as they say. Alright, now let's kick it off with the Daily Nation this particular morning. And top story on the Daily Nation says united in impunity. Alright, and there are pictures there of state officials, including the Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. There is a picture there of Douglas Kanja on the front page of the Daily Nation, as well as Mohammed Amin, who is the director of the DCI, Mushiri Nyaga, National Police Service spokesperson, Joshua Nkanada, Central Regional Commissioner, and as well as Jasper Mbati, who is a regional police commander, and as well as the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Now, Daily Nations ask cover-up. Now, 4 days after the attack on former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua at a church service in Nyeri, the latest in a string of similar incidences, there has been no reported questioning of suspect or arrests. Security chiefs have also ignored queries about the status of investigations into the bloody violence. That's on page 4 and 5. And of course, Kipchumba Murkomen says, and I quote, that the regional commissioner and security team must take legal action against those who raided the church and caused chaos to ensure it does not happen again. Actually, those were his words, which he took to his social media platforms. That was on Sunday after that particular incident actually happened. Of course, we actually saw also the aide to Douglas Kanja also issued a statement in regards to that particular incident in Nyeri County. Now let's take a look at what the Daily Nation has to say in regards to that particular story on page 4 of the Daily Nation this particular morning. And it continues to say that security chiefs have ignored repeated queries about the status of investigations into Sunday's violence, in which armed men in plain clothes backed by police vehicles were caught on camera firing live ammunition and tear gas, while other hurled stones and as well as tear gas. Now, Mr. Gachagua and his allies fled the violence, which has been condemned by church leaders as well as Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Kipchumba Murkomen, who has also promised speedy investigations and prosecution of the perpetrators. But days later, authorities have not been provided, has not provided any update on the progress of investigations. Now, if any, as has been the case with previous incidences that sparked public outrage, Mr. Murkomen reiterated that yesterday that the case will be investigated. But so far, actually, we haven't seen any arrest. We haven't seen any summons in regards to this particular case. And of course, we will remember that on Sunday, actually, men and children were actually, tear gassed in a church service, which was actually ongoing in Wetina, that is in Othaya, Nyeri County. And now our security forces remains silent. JK vehicles were actually used, were seen actually in those altercations. There were tear gas. In a natural circumstances, there is no way where a common man can buy a tear gas. I don't even think that even they're being sold in our local shops. So you can imagine where the tear gas is coming from. All right. We hope that there will be speedy investigations. Now listen to this other story. Mbarire diverted 10 million Kenya shillings to Kindiki political event. Of course, Cecily Mbarire yesterday was actually grilled by the Senate. She was appearing at the Senate committee where she answered some of the questions. It was actually a heated session where she actually, she said, quote unquote, yesterday that she's being honest with the committee. And Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire diverted that 10 million Kenya shillings earmarked for the construction of the County Aggregate Industrial Park that to finance a political event attended by Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. A Senate committee had on Wednesday, that was yesterday. Now the disclosure was made during a meeting of the Senate County Public Accounts Committee, where Ms. Mbarire admitted that her administration acted under what she described as an immense pressure to fund an event targeting Boda riders. And appearing before the committee chaired by Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang, the governor, who is also the chairperson of the United Democratic Alliance, that is UDA, said that the county government had been compelled to bankroll the function which was graced by Professor Kithure Kindiki. Now, Ms. Mbarile was before the committee to respond to audit queries raised by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu for their financial year ended June 30th of 2025. And senators questioned why the first-time governor prioritized a political function over a key development project intended to spur industrial growth and create jobs for Embu residents. And it's quite unfortunate, a leader elected in office, when you actually someone is when that's actually the time that you are telling the truth, that you're saying that I used this amount of money to do this and I shall refund back. It's quite unfortunate that this is happening after being grilled. You can imagine if she was not grilled, maybe, just maybe, the 10 million Kenya shillings would have gone that way. Public money, right? Moving on to matters education on the Daily Nation front page. And listen to this other story. Sandra Cherono, she is a girl, and when she walked into Kapsabet police station that is in Nandi County on Tuesday, the officers immediately assumed that she had come to report a crime or lodge a complaint. Now, the assumption was understandable, as most people visit police station seeking help with criminal matters. In Sandra's case, however, the matter was entirely different. She had traveled over 10 kilometers to the station, not to report a crime, but because she went to seek help. She said that she cited that she lacked school fees to join grade 10, and she hoped the officers could help. Now, the 19-year-old had scored 55 points in the 2025 Kenya Junior School Education Assessment and secured admission to Ndalat Girls High School, that is in Mosop, Nandi County, but her parents were unable to raise the necessary fees. Now, fearing she might miss out on the admission, Sandra chose to the unusual route seeking help at the police station. All right, and I don't know whether you can actually seek help from your local police station. Police stations actually recently have had scandals. You'll remember that many times that recently we've had people being taken to the custody and reported died in unclear circumstances. You remember the case of Albert Ojwang, which actually raised public outrage in 2025, right? Now, the girl was actually eventually helped by the police officers in Nandi County, and of course there is a picture there of the lady and the Nandi County Police Commander, that is Samuel Mukosi Hans, handing her over learning materials and other personal effects to Sandra Cherono at Kapsabet Police Station. That was yesterday. And one may wonder, the head of state actually announced himself this particular week that, any child who lacks school fees and, essentials like uniforms should actually report to school, even as the parents continue to, look for these materials. The station is not about. But, that's actually not the case. We actually saw another case actually in Bungoma, I believe, where an MP actually went to that school and appealed to the principal to admit, the children who are out of school because of school fees and personal effects, right? And we hope that, the economy is bad, man. So the principals actually should be lenient with the parents and the students as well. Still matters education. At least 363 public primary schools have been connected to the internet, and the last mile connectivity of schools project supported by the European Union. The initiative aims to boost delivery of the competency-based education, that is CBE, and bridge the digital divide, which continues to hamper learning in many rural areas despite Kenya's growing digital economy. That's a story on page 3 as well on the Daily Nation. And in the corridors of justice, court faults DPP over illegal prosecution for robbery with violence. And the High Court in Nairobi has ruled that the government is violating the constitution by continuing to prosecute robbery with violence cases under penal code provisions that were declared unconstitutional 7 years ago. In a judgment that could reshape Kenya's criminal justice system, the court faulted the government for disregarding binding 2018 court rulings and ordered strict judicial oversight to enforce reforms. Now, the judgment exposes the government to potential litigation on the Bill of Rights, including claims of unlawful detention, wrongful conviction, and constitutional damages. Now, the court found that state agencies, including the police and the Director of Public Prosecutions, that is the DPP, have unlawfully arrested, charged, detained, and had suspects convicted under the invalidated provisions since 2018. That's a story exclusively on page 2 of the Daily Nation. Still on matters education, Ogamba and Duale actually yesterday were grilled as well during the National Assembly retreat. They were under fire over schools and the Shah crisis. And MPs pressured Cabinet Secretaries Julius Ogamba and Eden Duale on funding to schools and controversial hiring at the Social Health Authority. The forum was also told the government does not know the cost of educating a child in public schools systems. It's quite unfortunate, you are leading a ministry and you can't tell, the cost of educating a child in primary school. Quite unfortunate. Now that's what's up on the Daily Nation. Let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper this particular morning. Top story on the Standard newspaper says shaming judiciary, and the independence of the judiciary is facing a credibility test as allegations of partisan conduct engulf a sitting Judicial Service Commission commissioner with High Court interviews days away. Critics warn that political colors have been smuggled into an institutional meant to to blind to power. At the center of the storm is JSC Vice Chair Isaac Ruto, who with the ruling party structures raised the fears that judicial process risks being reduced to a loyalty test. That's on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. Of course, on the front page of the Standard, there is a picture there of the vice chair, that is Isaac Ruto, and the UDA. I don't know what's your take on that, on the independence of some of the institutions here in the country. We've seen the Standard now claim there are some questions in regards to how the Judicial Service Commission is actually related to the ruling party, that is the UDA, and as well as we actually saw during the protest, the government was actually issuing orders. You'll remember that the head of state actually said that what he termed as goons who are looting properties in Nairobi CBD be shot at the legs. Now you wonder, the independence of these institutions, are they what one may term as actually, state capture? Tell me your thoughts. Now, this particular story is on page 4, and a storm is brewing in the Judicial Service Commission, that is JSC, after former senior official, 2 lawyers, and a cross-section of Kenyans demanded the resignation of Commissioner Isaac Ruto of alleged political bias, just as he is set to participate in next week's interviews for the High Court judges. Now, the 2 formal complaint letters by JSC, former Vice Chairperson, and another letter by 2 lawyers were written to Chief Justice Martha Koome, demanding the immediate resignation of Commissioner Isaac Ruto of alleged breach of constitutional neutrality. However, to kick out a commissioner in the Judicial Service Commission, a petitioner needs to write to the National Assembly laying out the allegations and the grounds for removal. Now, in the letter seen by the Standard, former Commissioner Macharia Njeru accuses Ruto of attending United Democratic Alliance, that is UDA party meetings, including a recent national governing council gathering at State House, actions he terms what is quote-unquote unprecedented for the JSC commissioner. Now, Njeru, who served on the commission between 2019 and 2024, contends such open political association violates the Constitution, the Leadership and Integrity Act, and the JSC's Code of Conduct, posing what the Standard terms as a big threat to independence of the judiciary. That's a story on page 4 and 4, actually, of the Standard newspaper. And Winnie Odinga says only the NDC can confirm ODM leadership. Now, here, a member of parliament, Winnie Odinga, has warned that the rushed attempt to replace Raila Odinga with his brother Oburu Odinga as ODM party leader by past established procedures is therefore illegitimate and are more likely to deepen divisions within the party. Now, Winnie maintained that Oburu is serving only in an acting capacity pending a decision by the National Delegates Conference, that is the NDC. Her remarks had been fueled to the ongoing tensions as Oburu works to unite the two ODM factions within the Odinga family and the wider party. Now, speaking in an interview on Tuesday with a local TV station, Winnie described Oburu as a transitional leader, noting that the party's substantive leadership will ultimately be determined by the NDC. That's a story on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. Now listen to this other story where the education CS, that is Julius Migos Ogamba, was actually grilled yesterday. And the Standard title is Clueless, where is 97 transition education boards on receiving end. Now the crisis in the education sector come into sharp focus during the ongoing National Assembly retreat that is in Naivasha, where MPs launched a blistering attack on the Ministry of Education officials over the chaotic transition to grade 10. Now led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, legislators accused the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Education, that is Julius Bitok, of incompetence and urged Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba to urgently put his house in order. Now Ichung'wah openly reprimanded the PS, saying, and I quote, "You have the most clueless PS in the Ministry of Education, most clueless. He only sits in Nairobi and has no idea, what happens on the ground. Get out of your office and go to the ground to deal with the problems." Those are the words of Kimani Ichung'wah yesterday during the grilling of Julius Ogamba, who is the education CS. Now, the Kikuyu Member of Parliament made the remarks, after highlighting multiple challenges, bedevailing the sector, challenging Ogamba to act decisively. Now, in his submissions, Ichung'wah said corruption had crept into schools, with parents being forced to pay for desk and lunch programs without clear plans or accountability. That's as well on page 2 of the Standard newspaper this particular morning as well. Still matters education, alarm as millions of pupils lack basic reading and numeracy skills. And of course, recently we've actually seen that the education sector, parents are actually decrying, the competency-based curriculum and the transition from grade 10. They're decrying, the rising cost of education in the country right now. And it's quite unfortunate. The only thing that you can actually give your child right now is basically education. And when that education becomes expensive, then it becomes a problem to the future of this king. And we hope that the government should actually do something in this particular ministry. Right? Now, Akin tell agonizing tales of men killed in Russia. Now, grief and anger hung heavy in the air as families of Kenyan men lured into the Russian-Ukraine war frontline and the promise of well-paying jobs told their stories. Now, during a tense press briefing yesterday, some relatives broke down in tears, clutching photographs and documents of their kins as they recounted last phone conversations and unfulfilled promises. Now, the anguish underscored the agonizing nightmares they have endured since they lost touch with their kin, compounded by feeble government response. Now, for major of the families, communication with their kin went silent soon after arrival in Russia. That's a story also on page 3. On the families who have their kins abroad in Russia, where, we have witnessed chaos in those particular countries recently. And that's a story on page 3 of the Standard newspaper this particular morning. And we hope that, they that actually in that particular country right now, we hope that, they will be repatriated in the country safely. All right, now the push for relevant vocational education skills among youth as CBE takes shape. That's what matters education as well on page 3 of the Standard newspaper. Now, because I'm a sports person, let's take a look on what's making headlines in the world of sports. And top story on the back page of the Standard says, can Arsenal handle Premier League weight of expectation? Now, top of the Premier League and Champions League, and still in both domestic cup competitions, Arsenal fans should be relishing what could yet turn out to be the greatest season in the Ghana's history. But a 3-2 defeat to Manchester United has reopened the debate over whether Michael's side can, shrug off their tag of nearly meant to deliver a first league title in 22 years. Now Arsenal still hold a 4-point lead over an inconsistent Manchester City, and surprise packages Aston Villa at the top of the table with 15 games. Right? I knew, when I actually saw this particular story, I knew the Standard will actually, mention, the game, the Arsenal and the Manchester City game, which was actually held on Sunday. That's a story is actually on a newspaper on a Thursday. Can tell the writer is actually most probably a Manchester United fan. Now the big games left to play. Arsenal will face off, Chelsea will face off Manchester City. Arsenal will face off Chelsea on March 1st, and Arsenal as well will face Manchester City on April 18th, and Manchester City will face off Liverpool on February 8th. Manchester City at the same time will face off Chelsea on April 11th, and Man City also will face off Arsenal in April 18, and Aston Villa will face Man City in May 2024. Man United will face off Aston Villa on March 14th. Man United as well will face off Chelsea on April 18th, and Man United as well will face off Liverpool on May 2nd. And the tables looks like Arsenal is actually top of the table regardless of their lose during the weekend's games. They're actually leading with 50 points. Manchester City is actually following closely with 46 points, just a margin of 4 points. All right, and Aston Villa with 46 points as well. Man United, Chelsea, and Liverpool, and of course the others. And of course the others are on page 2. All right. Now Chelsea will actually face off Arsenal on March 11th. Chelsea will face off Aston Villa on March 4th, and Chelsea will face off Manchester City on April 11th, and Man United will face off Chelsea on April 18th, and as well as Liverpool will face off Chelsea on May 9th in the English Premier League, even as we head to the Champions League. Now you're up to speed with what you're waking up to this particular morning as far as news and sports is concerned. My name is Martin Macharia. I've been watching Morning Live. Many thanks for, of course, keeping me company until this particular minute. And of course, I shall continue, keeping tabs with these developing stories, and we shall be bringing you in our subsequent bulletins later on in the day at 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9 p.m. Keep it EBN Television. My name is Martin Macharia. Once again, have yourself a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your viewing, and as always, let's do this again when God says we do.
But that's not all. Experience
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
From Nairobi, Kenya, this is EBN TV.
Welcome to the Manifest Show, the latest show in East Africa. Tunakupea dance moto moto, tunakupea muziki from the latest songs. Ndio masaa yetu. Come every Saturday from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Kuna shona kila kona kama unaraka sana bana ungekuja jana.
We have amazing guest artists.
Na usisahau kuna word. Na pia kuna amazing topics. Don't miss to watch this
on the Manifest Show, only on EBN TV.
Makofi.
How God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power.
When faith in God is removed and now we trust in beliefs of men, then the church is losing ground.
Hakuna kitatutenganisha, hakuna atakaye ninyang'anya taji langu. Niliyemtambua, hakuna kitatutenganisha, hakuna atakaye ninyang'anya taji langu. Niliyemtambua, hakuna kitatutenganisha, hakuna atakaye ninyang'anya taji langu. Niliyemtambua, hakuna kitatutenganisha, hakuna atakaye ninyang'anya taji langu. Nimemushika sitamwacha. Nimemushika sitamwacha. Usipochanua mizabibu isitoe matunda, bado nitamfurahia wa milele Bwana wangu. Haya yanitia moyo, ni mchungaji wa upendo, aliacha 99 kaja kutafuta moja. Mtini usipochanua, mizabibu isitoe matunda, bado nitamfurahia wa milele Bwana wangu. Haya yanitia moyo, ni mchungaji wa upendo. Aliacha 99 kaja kutafuta moja. Amenibadilisha, kanipa furaha ya kweli. Bahati gani niliyo nayo, kuwa mrithi na Kristo. Amenibadilishia huzuni, kanipa furaha ya kweli. Bahati gani niliyo nayo, kuwa mrithi na Kristo. Kipi kitanitenga na upendo wako? Hakuna hayo, hakuna haye, nimemshika sitamwacha. Chanua, mizabibu isitoe matunda, bado nitamfurahia kwa milele Bwana wangu. Haya yanitia moyo, ni mchungaji wa upendo. Aliacha 99 kaja kutafuta moja.